I do this stupid thing where I'll draw a circle and then I'll shade it like a sphere and I'll put a shadow down, but then I'll add like a little, figure.
Lights, camera, let's have some fun. It's time for Justin Hill +1.
This is Justin Hill +1, and let's see who's RSVPing in the VIP lounge today. From the end of Oak Street, it is director of the film David Robert Mitchell and legendary producer J.J. Abrams. Now, before we cross to them, for anyone living under a rock, The End of Oak Street is a wildly intense sci-fi survival thriller about a quiet suburban neighborhood that suddenly gets ripped out of reality. Now, it gets dropped into a world infested with prehistoric creatures. I caught up with a team where JJ opened up about his love of the classic kids on bikes adventure films. We got inside the story into what it was really like working with the ultimate star of the film, Starbuck the dog, and how Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor really brought this film to life. Check it out.
Hello from Australia.
Hello.
It's nice and early in the morning, but I tell you what, this is one movie I want to get up to talk to you two about today because I have so many favorite moments. So I'm going to have to pace myself quite well today to make sure I get. But first question for JJ, I got to say, what this movie takes us on such an adventure. But when the concept came to you, was there a particular moment or a scene that made you go, "This is a film that the world needs to see"?
One of the things that I loved about it was I loved the characters, but the thing that really made me feel like I desperately want to see this movie is the counterpoint of dinosaurs in our world, in our familiar neighborhoods, in our backyards, in our parks, in our streets. There was something. I do this stupid thing where I'll draw a circle and then I'll shade it like a sphere and I'll put a shadow down, but then I'll add like a little, figure either next to it and all of a sudden when you have that relative scale and the connection, this little stupid sphere suddenly weirdly you feel something, and it's because there's a human being in relation to it, and the idea of having dinosaurs in relation to humans or the things that we humans surround ourselves with was so exciting to me. And it was amazing when we spoke to learn that that was weirdly the very thing that inspired the whole movie. So it was kind of like in the DNA.
Yep, absolutely.
I was going to say, if you know, you know. Talking about. Yeah. I also have to say, as a certified dinosaur nerd, the depiction of the dinosaurs in this film, and this is a big statement, but I'm going to say it was probably one of my favorite I've ever seen on
wonderful.
screen.
That's awesome.
Great.
But what I feel is that it's everything we know about them now, about the feathers and the textures and how they should look, and then also to the up close scenes of there's one in particular where one is attacking someone and you really see that kind of grittiness of what their feathers and their texture was like. So absolute kudos for that. But let's talk about world building. I mean, you've got two wildly different things. You've got a quiet suburban street and you've got prehistoric wilderness. What was the hardest and what was the most fun part to mesh those two worlds together? Because we see progressively that the suburban area does start to take on more and more and more of the prehistoric area that it's in. But I would love to know, they're so different. How did you, or is that the thing, that the fact that they are so different, that just plonking one in the other is what makes it interesting?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was about, I sort of fell in love with the idea of dinosaurs being in the place that we feel most comfortable and safest. The idea of a dinosaur, walking through your front yard, or peeking behind your garage, or just stepping on a chain link fence. There's something about the fantastical and the sort of average and mundane things that we that we feel that drew me to it, and I liked the edge at which those things change. Where again, when Denise steps out of Mrs. Huddleston's house and steps into the backyard, and so this very average yard that we've already seen before now is is sort of crossed by something completely unexpected. To me, that was very fun and exciting.
There's one thing I wanted to talk to you about, and I had to do a bit of research when I saw it, but it really stood out to me, and that was the use of, and I hope I'm getting the term correctly, the split
Oh
diopter
yeah, yeah,
shot.
yes,
And it just was, the more I looked into it, the more I was so fascinated. And what I read online was that this concept of like the foreground and the background for anyone playing at home are both, in focus at the same time.
hmm
And there's talk of that style being used to create an uneasiness to the viewer because you're watching something that isn't natural. We can't
yeah.
normally, we're used to seeing depth of field. So I would love to know, how did you choose those moments where you would use that style? Because for me, it was very specific moments that you were using them, and I
Yeah.
would love to know how you chose those.
Yeah, I mean, it's really it's about emphasis of it's exactly as you were saying. It's about drawing people in, and so like one of the key scenes we have the sequence where the family is talking about what's happened to them, and so it's about finding a way for that to be visually special. To be for people to be drawn in, you know, us really connecting with the family's faces. So if we can have what's interesting about it is it allows you to, you know, we can hold a close up of Anne, you know, in the foreground, and we can, and then her daughter, Audrey, played by Maisie, is in the background, and they're both sharp. You really connect. You can see their faces, and so I think it pulls you in. Again, there's all kinds of ways in which you can use that effect, and it's a really fun way to sort of to sort of cheat against depth of field when you're using a lens.
And I do have a question from someone who has been listening to this interview today, and that is Starbucks' biggest fan,
Hey.
and she would like to know if working with Starbuck was all smoothly, or was it hilarious having a dog on set? How did that all go, especially when you're doing something that, requires so
Yeah, no,
much?
Starbuck. Starbuck is a team player and was always wonderful on set. Was never difficult in any way. No, but Starbuck was great. Yes.
An
I love
audience
it.
favorite.
Yes, yeah.
Starbuck.
No, but I mean, it's wonderful having the dogs there for some of those. Can be
Well,
hard, of course,
mhm.
but worth it.
We really
Right.
appreciate you renting a dog for this interview, though.
You're welcome. I mean, her talent fee is enormous, JJ. You'd have no idea. So I'm gonna have to
Really?
she's got another gig to go to.
Wow.
Hey, JJ, I wanted to ask you about this concept of films that make me feel like it's taking me back to a space where it's so great to be at the cinema again. And that is often kids on bikes in suburban adventures, and there's just something about that
Mm.
genre of film. And it's so funny how that has become, at least in my mind, a genre of film.
Mm.
What draws you to a project like that when it does have that feel of, I don't even know what it is. It's like when you were a kid and you were out on your bike at dusk, and there's something about that air of adventure in the air, and somehow that's channeled into a film.
No, I hear you. I mean, it was such relatively innocent times, and I think when we were doing Super 8 and I was sort of drawn to that era for similar reasons, it just felt familiar. It felt like childhood the childhood that I knew. When I read this script, even though I was aware it was set in the early '80s, it was something that weirdly felt separate from me. In fact, I even at some point suggested that we modernize it, just because I thought it didn't need to be in that era. But the truth is, because I knew it was, obviously it was important to you, the idea of doing it, like, it was fine for me because there's really a timelessness to this story. And
Yeah.
and the fact that it takes place when it does, like, these characters could easily be going through the same thing today,
I agree.
each of them. And because they lose all sort of power and the resources that they've got, it really is a survival story. There's a kind of primal aspect to the story that really is timeless as well. So,
Yes.
but I do love what you're saying. I think that there is something about that period that is a little bit magical, and it sort of like lowers our defenses. I think we were less cynical back then. And I think there's something about it. This movie has a big heart. As scary as it is, as crazy as it is, it's also, I think, a movie that's for everyone. It's really a family film.
Couldn't agree more. And my final question is, Anne Hathaway, Ewan McGregor, I mean, they just are fantastic in this role. I guess
They're wonderful.
what surprised They're so great.
Yes.
What surprised you about their dynamic once you saw the cameras rolling? And I mean, obviously they were just the perfect fit for these roles.
Just the
really.
connection between them. Well, it just felt really perfect. There was just the way that they played off of each other, just the different elements of personality between Denise and Greg, and the ways in which Ewan and Anne portrayed that. There's just a real joy with their interactions. Even if there are moments of difficulty between them, or just irritation, or any of the things in which that are normal between a couple, I think that they embody it perfectly. And again, I love watching them.
It felt very real. Hey, wonderful movie. I'm so thrilled to get to talk to you both about it. Thank you for answering all of my questions, and I really appreciate your time today.
You as well. Thank you so much. Cheers.
I just love hearing about those behind-the-scenes stories, especially how Starbuck the dog completely stole every single scene from the entire cast. No surprise there. That is it for this episode of Justin Hill Plus One. A big thank you to David Robert Mitchell and J.J. Abrams for being my plus ones today. Make sure you check out The End of Oak Street. It is starring Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor. It is fantastic, and it is in cinemas now. If you want a front row seat to the biggest names in the business and all of that red carpet action that you just won't get anywhere else, get your permanent VIP pass by subscribing and following so you never miss an episode. Why don't you drop me a review? Let me know in the comments who you think my next plus one should be. And until next time, stay gorgeous, and remember, your name is always on the guest list.